Hello to everybody and welcome to a new Italian PNC video. Today we will be looking at the third edition of the Beyond the Ice Walls map. So let's get right into what this is. So many of you know my channel from the Beyond the Ice Walls map, the one that was called the Flight of the Eagle or something like that. And it was a very large map, I think something around the amount of like 15,000 pixels per 15,000 pixels. It was very developed. It was made in a way that had one like earthly circle, so you could see everything inside the ice walls in a map, and then a single circle outside of the ice walls. So the theory, that map basically followed the theory that is there is one ice walls, and then basically there is something else in the second ring basically, and then there's basically nothing else in the rest of the world. But this map is different. This is the third edition of the Beyond the Ice Walls map, and I will be zooming out now to show you all what this actually looks like, and it's pretty amazing, honestly. So as you can see, this map is way larger than the last one, not in terms of actual like file map size or something like that, but in the terms that this map follows the theory or fact, depending on what you believe, that there are more than one ring outside of the ice walls. So as you can see in this map, we have the ice walls themselves, so what is considered likely Antarctica. Then outside of the gates that follow the world, we can see there is a first ring that we already discussed about in great detail in the Beyond the Ice Walls series, and then as you can see there is a second ring. A second ring outside of the original second ring, so in this case you could call it a third ring, which is why the map is called the third map. And this third map is amazing. It is honestly huge, and it completely changes the way we believe in our world, because of course if we consider the original theory, so there's one Earth, alright? One plane of existence. And on this plane of existence there's things inside of the ice walls and outside of the ice walls. But in this theory there was like, that was it basically. So after that there are ice walls, and after that there are other planets, other planes of existence, but there's nothing else to be told about Earth. But in this map we can see that this is completely changed, as there's a third complete plane of existence inside of the plane of existence, a third circle, as you could call it, a third ring that is full of other continents, islands, peoples, cultures, names, religions, maybe even so many things that we already know of a lot through our world, but that are already unknown in the current era. So in this episode, I will probably do a series about this, just like I did in the Beyond the Ice Walls map, and according to you guys, so I'll basically see what the reception of this series is, and if it goes well, I'll continue making more videos out. But for now, let's see what the recap basically of where we last left this map. So remember the last map we already did? There's a full 6-hour long video that shows all the intricacies of the original Beyond the Ice Walls map, so I recommend watching it. It's not necessary for you to understand this map right here, but it is important if you want to actually know what we're talking about. So I recommend watching that or watching the separate videos which are findable in my channel. So first of all, let's start with the things we all know about. So Earth, alright? Earth. The earthly plane inside of the ice walls. Here is Europe, Africa, South America, North America, Asia, Australia, and so on and so forth. These are the continents we already know of. As you can see, this map is not political, as in the sense that it does not show the political boundaries or political entities that inhabit the lands of Earth and the continents outside of Earth. So what this means is whether while the last map we saw had nation-states, states, cultures, and kingdoms, republics, and so on and so forth, and the powers of Earth controlling outside of the second ring, and all those things, inside of this map there is nothing about that. It's only like focused on the actual continents and the things inside of them instead of focusing on the like overarching structures of the political entities that govern those lands. So as you can see here, it's just a physical map of Earth as we know it. We have the tundra, the taiga, the deserts, the Tibetan plateau, the African and the South American rainforests, and so on and so forth. So we already know about this. If you don't know about this, you just failed geography or something. I don't know. You should know about Earth, you know. That's what I'm talking about. Then there are the four gates. The four gates are something we developed on in the Beyond the Ice Wall series, and to make it short, there are four gates that divide the inside of the ice walls from the outside of the ice walls. At least that was the theory before we had more ice walls. But in this map we can see that the initial ice walls that divide what we call our Earth from the other Earths is, as you can see, divided from these four rings, which are the Leviathan's Gate, which is known for having the presence of Leviathan creatures, like the sea leviathans. Then the Sentinel's Gate, which is guarded by some sort of penguin that is basically a sentinel being. It's also inhabited by local populations that thrived in Antarctica despite its cold weather. Of course, I remind you that this, in fact, walls are what we call Antarctica. Then we have the Tiger's Gate, which is called like that because of the population that comes in and out of it, which trafficked many animals like tigers. And finally we have the Serpent's Gate, which is home to the original serpent, which many cultures in the earthly history have represented, like the what was it called? Jormungandr of Norse mythology, as well as many other snakes like the ones in the religion of the native peoples of Australia, as well as those in Africa. And even, of course, Apophis, the evil deity of Egyptian mythology that wanted to destroy the earth. So all of these myths and recountings had some source. We already know of the existence of large snakes in our waters, and in this case the serpent is what we were talking about. So just like the Leviathan is cited in the Bible, and there are many stories inside of the world that talk about Leviathans, and they exist in the Leviathan's Gate, so does the serpent of the earthly waters exist around the waters of the Serpent's Gate. So as far as that goes, that covers basically the entirety of our Earth, or the Earth we well know about. And then there comes the first ring, or second ring, depending on what you believe. But the important thing is, we already covered basically all of this. I say basically because there are some things I will go back on while doing the series, but we basically covered this inside the Beyond the Ice Walls series, the original one we did. It was very developed upon, so once again recommend you watch that one if you want to know most about this. There are things that are basically completely unknown, like the continents of, let me think, Shangri-La, the Vogelwalk, Garden of the Vogelwalk. This was very complicated because of the kind of life forms that inhabit it. And so we can even move on to things like Zerzura, God's hallucination, which we also talked about, and how it developed in its own situation, and how it was the home of the Second Prussian Empire, and things like that. But once again, this is not the objective of this map. It is not to be focused on the facts that are on the political matters, on the geopolitical matters, but it is mostly focused on the geographical factors. So we even have names and epithets for these continents, so like Pitacia, the continent of constructs, Ketumati, land of a million walls, Quiriv and Cibola, lucrative lands of lavish lizards, all things we mentioned again in the last episodes. But then we have things we didn't talk about because of the fact that we just kind of skipped them in the original saga. So we have things like Ptera Terra, the winged wilderness. So if I remember correctly, Ptera Terra was the land of like a diverse species of birds that differed from the mainland and developed completely different from the rest of the world. And Ptera Terra was in fact originally in the map we focused on the last time basically kind of an island chain or something like that, but as we can see here, it is part of the second ice walls, which by the way are called the Montane Ring, or Montane Ring. I'm not really sure how to pronounce this, honestly. Like it feels like I should pronounce it like Mountain Ring, but it doesn't really feel right, doesn't it? Also, we have other places here, like we didn't mention the Expressia continent, circus of the mountain ring. So mountain, yeah, I suppose mountain. I'm going to pronounce it mountain, kind of like mountain, but a bit different. Then we have places like Cocaine, the Arena of Champions, Saguenay, Nature's Casino, all places we don't really know much about, and we were briefly discussed on the original map, but we didn't really dwell on them so far. Then Apisia, the home of the brave. We did talk about a lot of these ones, like the Motuputua, Pupeiriri, and of course Aten, the Grand Orchestra, and the different races of beings that exist on Aten, or Kaipuke, the Isles of the Instruments. But then we have places that we didn't really mention, like Arcadia, the Dynamic Islands, and then Celeria, Nature's Racetrack. And so we come back to the point of the map, the fact that all of this we kind of know or talked about in some fashion, but then we come to the interesting parts, the new parts, the things that we don't know about. And these are actually, I noticed some similarities with the Nos Confunden map we looked at in our videos. I'm going to try continuing with the Nos Confunden map, even though it has not gotten the same reception as it used to go, but I'll continue it because it's very interesting. And we had seen that in the Nos Confunden map we have 3 rings, or at least 2 rings, just as this one. But in the Nos Confunden map we actually have 3 rings, so it's even larger, but in this case we can see some similarities. So we have things like, I already noticed Asgard, which is part of the Nos Confunden map, which we will discuss about in a singular episode. When we have things like Greater Lemuria, so Lemuria, the legendary graveyard, the fertile graveyard is how it's called here, or Lemuria, which is the original one, which is the Forsaken Empire. So we will talk about those in great detail. Then we have Eden, the Primordial Garden. Once again, it was featured on the Nos Confunden map, so we know there is the Garden of Eden outside of the Ice Walls, but the question was, where was the original Garden of Eden? And the solution this map gives is that it is indeed in the 2nd ring outside of the Ice Walls. And then we have Terra Nova, the Legacy of Sumnia, other places like here, also featured in the map of the Ice Walls by Nos Confundum, so Amun-Ra, Stronghold of the Nephilim, which I actually had to kind of research about when I was covering the Nos Confundum map, because I found myself not really knowing what it was about, so I had to kind of look for it, yeah. Then we had the Garden Isles, the Holy Hunting Grounds, I mean, a lot of interesting things, even Horus, the Great Pillars of Akupara, and of course Mu, yeah, the Emperor of Stoneman. For those that do not know, Mu, it's similar to Lemuria, similar concept in the beneath of it, but we will talk about it in a video dedicated to it. So as you can see, there's so much, oh, even Scylla and Charybdis, oh, this is so good. I even got the Hot Odyssey. This is so good, this is so good, this is so developed. Can we just take a moment to just thank the map creators for making this gorgeous map. It just looks so good. Even when you zoom out completely, it's fantastic. It's just great. It's just amazing. And just to know we have so many places to discover, so many places to talk about, it's insane just how much things we have to learn about which we don't know about. Because this is the reality of Earth. You might think you know everything. You can see the plane of existence, the original one, inside of the Ice Walls, and maybe know all of it, and then go like, yeah, humanity has it all. We know everything. Then you discover the Ice Walls, and you discover what is beneath it and underneath it, and then yeah, beyond it, and you go, wow, this is a revelation. I could have never expected there to be more. And it then just keeps on going, just as we saw in the Terra Infinita map in Nos Confundum. Every time you think there is an end to it, there's just more things to know, more things we know about thanks to the elderly. So not the elderly, I mean the ancients, that's the actual term. And just, there's so much cool things, and it's beautiful when people represented on these maps, because we can actually talk about it with a straightforward and like precise attempt to analyze these and like understand their metaphors, understand what's reality, understand what is just kind of made to be part of the map, understand what is meant to be real, understand what is meant to be fake, understand everything, and we can analyze it in a very beautiful and precise fashion, which is not easy to do when you don't have devices such as these maps. So once again, just big thanks to the creators. I will put the download link for this map in the description down below. It's a DeviantArt link page, I think, because it's so big. The map is so big they couldn't really publish it on every like mainstream website or place, because it's just so huge, 14,000 per 14,000 pixels and more. So we had to place it on DeviantArt, which supports bigger maps because it's an art website. And yeah, you'll be able to download the map right there, and the link in the description down below. And you'll be able to explore it yourself, but of course I'll be here to guide you in each episode on these specific topics. And I think I will start by just trying to trace where exactly we can go from inside of the mountain ring to outside of the mountain ring. So let's see. The thing I think is the like clearest way to achieve you know, outside. So I was searching in these mountains. As you can see, you have a lot of things. You have a lot of the mountain ring is not really like this concise. It's very big, like completely different from Antarctica or the ice walls, where you could see like the diameter of the ice walls is not even like that bigger, and like, I don't know, minor continent, maybe Australia. Yeah, it's kind of like the same size of Australia when it comes to the diameter. But then we go to things like the mountain ring, which like the mountain ring is bigger than any of the continents inside of it. It's huge. It's insanely large. Like, just look at the part with the Shangri-La. It's insane how big this is compared to the rest. So it's just amazing. And I was searching for some way to actually achieve an escape from it, so actually get out of it. And I think the two major places are Niflheim, so the land of the six gates, and then there is the part of here. So you had to go through Apisia and through this archipelago, and here is the like only place that almost completely connects. So I don't even think this is actual connection. I just think that's probably due to the like amount of like space on the map. So there probably is a river here that you can navigate. So this is the only actual place you can probably just go boat to boat from the center of the world, so Europe, North America or something like that, Africa, don't know, don't care, and then out of it through the Sentinel's Gate, and then took a line on Thoth if it is there, since it is a nomad continent, then reach places like Cocaine, Expressia, Saguenay, Apisia, and then have to circumnavigate Apisia and get into these islands, and finally you can go in this strait and exit it, and finally find yourself in the second ring. And you will be encountering the continent of Weldhorn, the Destiny Manifest continent. But then again, we don't really have to talk about Weldhorn now. We still have to learn about a lot of information. Like myself, need to learn about these informations. So Weldhorn is part that I don't know. What I do know is Asgard. So as I said, Asgard, we already saw a lot of it in where was the Nos Confundum map. But this iteration is so much better. Like, no offense to the Nos Confundum map, of course, it's great, but it's very like focused on the rest of the universe, or like the planes of existence of other planes of existence, basically. But this one, no, this one is actually way well developed. We even see other continents near it, so Amazonia, Alcaringia, Rephasia, and Asgard itself, Hyperborea even, as its original inhabitants believed it to be. Amazing, just amazing. We even have the famous walls of Asgard, and then Valhalla, the Hyperborean vanguard. So it's all stuff that you can see in Norse mythology, and you can find it in the second ring. And in this case, even the walls of the second ring. Also, you might have noticed, or might have not noticed, that the second ring itself is, once again, chopped off from the rest of existence by these other, these like our walls, kind of. We have the walls of Asgard, the Titanic fabric forest. You can see the difference with the mountain ring, ice walls, and these ones is that those were mostly the same. Like the habitat didn't really change, the kind of way it was constructed didn't really change, except from in the coasts, like here. But in these, they're completely different. We have the Titanic forests, so literally a forest. Then the frozen wastes, so once again, kind of like the ice walls. The volcanic wastes, so even volcanoes. The Typhon storm, so storms, abyssal ocean, sunken wastes. You can see here it appears to be some kind of marshland. And then we have even the scorched wastes, so deserts, with even the land of Iram, Another Rand, not the same thing. City of 1,000 Pillars, more things to get into in the next episodes. Then the irradiated wastes, even nuclear radiation, well, probably not nuclear since it's not natural, but something like that probably. And then once again the Walls of Asgard. So you can see just how big and important the Walls of Asgard are, that they are one of the major dividers between the second ring and whatever is outside of it, and you can really see how important Asgard itself is. So let's talk about the actual population of Asgard and what it means to be the first empire as told here. So one thing you have to know about Asgard is its population. Of course, in Norse mythology, the population of Asgard was composed by the Norse gods of the Aesir and the Vanir, which were the two tribal kind of groups that the pantheon of Norse mythology was divided to. So the ones that were basically with Odin and those that were against Odin in some kind of form. Of course, this depended on the region and the century we're talking about, but that was kind of the gist of it. And in this Asgard, it's a bit different. This Asgard is inhabited both by these kind of divine entities, which are not really known for, and they are mostly believed to live in Valhalla. And when it comes to actually the citizens of Asgard, the originals are the Hyperborean ethnic group, which is of course coming from Hyperborea. So Hyperborea, as you can see here, I'm going to go very fastly into it. It's a very long and like very knowledgeable theory, and it comes all the way back to even the ancient Greeks. So the ancient Greeks believed there to be a landmass which was called the Land of the North Winds, so of course Hyperborea. And this landmass was kind of not really known where it was, so some of the Greeks kind of thought it was somewhere alongside Northern Europe. Some Greeks thought it was in Iceland, some Greeks thought it was like the Scandinavian peninsula. Then when the Romans came, they kind of identified it as some of the islands near Britain, since they conquered Britain, and all these, most of it kind of not the north, but you know what I mean. And then when the Middle Ages came, Hyperborea was more of like some knowledgeable theory that kind of some people believed, since we have maps of Hyperborea coming from this period, they thought it was above here. So instead of the Faroe Islands, I'm sorry, not the Faroe Islands, these are the Svalbard Islands. So instead of the Svalbard Islands, they thought there was Hyperborea here, but as you can see, there was no Hyperborea here, not least that we know of. There might have been something noticeable as Hyperborea, also called Doggerland or Friesland, in the beyond times like 10,000, 7,000 BCE, so before the birth of Christ, but at the point where the Greeks thought it was, there was no Hyperborea left. Well, at least not that we know of. Of course, there are people still claiming there is Hyperborea here. There are some Russians that believe that the Kola Peninsula is Hyperborea. There are some Norwegians that still believe the Svalbards are what remains of Hyperborea, and some even believe there to be parts of Canada or Greenland which are Hyperborea, but these are all kind of unfounded theories, but it's okay to believe in them. I don't really see anything wrong against it. But the Asgard Empire, the first empire, so the people of this first empire, of course, come from Hyperborea. But in this case, Hyperborea is the land that is between the walls of Asgard and Asgard. So this one. As you can see, Hyperborea is in formation of a circle. It is relied upon mostly like kind of Atlantis. It looks like Atlantis in some way, because it starts with a small island where the main city of Hyperborea is, then it corrugates into many different islands, then it becomes into 4 different continents that are divided with rivers, and once again it maintains itself connected through the walls of Asgard and Asgard. So the first people that came to Asgard were the Hyperboreans. This Hyperborean ethnic group wasn't the only one to come to Asgard, because eventually there came the Subnotians. I think it's how you pronounce it, Subnotians. The creator of the map might let me know how to pronounce it correctly. But this ethnic group, which isn't really known where they came from, is the second group that came to Asgard. It is believed that they came from inside the ice wall, so maybe even from Earth, which means the theory is that the Subnotians are the descendant of the northern people that died in war. So what it means is that the people that believed in Valhalla, the people that believed in Asgard as a real place, kind of searched it for the eternity, and eventually their descendants found it, and these were the Subnotians. Asgard itself is very large. In fact, the entire landmass of Asgard is the same as the entire landmass of Earth in itself, and you can see how this is kind of a problem because of the small population, so it is a very lightly populated territory. Of course, there are divine beings that mainly reserve themselves for Valhalla and Hyperborea, but of course only sometimes kind of go to Asgard too. But the main population is, of course, as I said, the Subnotians, which are of Hyperborean stock, since they mixed with the Hyperborean original inhabitants of Asgard. As you can see, the story of Asgard is very complicated in this kind of map. There's still some information I would like to know from. It appears that the migration came from like 1000 years ago or something like that, so at the end of the Viking Age, but there are more informations I'm looking forward to knowing in my next studies. Yeah, this is kind of it when it comes to Asgard. Of course, then we have Valhalla, the Hyperborean vanguard, which means basically the, Valhalla. So in case you don't know, Valhalla was the place where the Norse, the dead of the Norse came to be when they died. So instead of going to hell, paradise, heaven, whatever, they went to Valhalla, which in this case was some kind of land where all the warriors would fight for eternity at certain points of their, routine, and they would prepare for Ragnarok, so the end of times, which eventually never came, so, just live there forever. And you can see how Valhalla is the Hyperborean vanguard, so the vanguards, literally the guards of Valhalla and Hyperborea, since it is the people that are supposed to protect Hyperborea in case of Ragnarok actually happening. So this is kind of the lore of Asgard, as well as I know. There's a lot of Norse mythology that you can get into, but a lot of it I already talked about in the Norse Confunded map, because as I said, the Asgard part kind of overlaps. I don't know why. I am kind of confused and intrigued by how, these many maps made by these many creators end up having the same kind of continents in the same kind of rings in the same kind of positions, although the creators never talk to each other. So it's both because of previous knowledge, mythological knowledge, and maps that exist before, or is it because it's just an underlying conscience that humanity has that they put in Asgard in the northwest, I don't know, Lemuria in the northeast. The same things. I'm pretty sure it was the same exact things the Norse Confunded map, but you're welcome to just tell me that's not the case. When we have places like Eden, the most well-known places. So Eden, of course, the Garden of Eden, the primordial garden, the place where humanity actually began. So God created humanity in Eden, the first man, the first woman, first Adam, Eve, so on and so forth. They lived here for a while. As you can see, it was divided between many rivers. It had all the biomes that existed at the point of time, so the ones that were to be lived upon when they would transfer themselves from the Garden of Eden to Canaan, the Holy Land of nowadays. And you can see that just how bigger it is than the original Canaan lands, such as modern-day Palestine and Israel. Eden itself has the landmass of kind of the entirety of Europe, so you can see how big it is, and it was just inhabited by a few folks, and of course the guardian angels, but also the entirety of the animal species that existed in Eden. But that's of course according to the Bible. And according to the Bible, once again, the people of Eden, so Adam and Eve, were sent away from the Garden of Eden into Earth. So you can see how the original inhabitants of Earth, according to the Bible, once again, are coming from the second ring. So they exist in the same plane of existence that we exist upon. So no other different plane of existence, heaven, hell, something like that. But they existed in our same plane of existence, but they're so far away because they're divided by the ice walls and then the mountain ring. And honestly, this is not even that far, because you can probably get there in Eden coming from the Elysium, the heaven bound to Earth, and then going right between the Niflheim. Niflheim being the lands of the Six Gates, and so Niflheim is, according to Norse mythology, the land of ice and cold. So it is the opposite of Muspelheim, which is the land of fire. They also both existed as the original landmasses that ever were created. So contemporarily to the mountain ring, we had Niflheim and Muspelheim, which I don't seem to find on the map of Muspelheim. It might be somewhere, honestly. It's so large of a map, I might probably just missed it. But Niflheim is basically the land of cold, ice, and everything that is kind of dead inside. But it does not mean that there can be no life near it, because as you can see in this area here, we have some vegetation, some livable habitats, and I assume at some point humans live there too. But Niflheim wasn't really inhabited by humans in Norse mythology, so there shouldn't be really a big of a problem coming from these kind of ragged borders. just coming from here and going right into the Horus pillars of the Akupara, and then somehow heading all the way to the Garden of Eden, also traversing this insane 1,000-world sea. You can see just how many islands are here. It's just insane, just the amount of biodiversity that there might be in these places. Also, once again, I might have skipped an important part of this. This entire second ring can also be called by another name, Akupara. It's a very ancient name, nobody really knows the origins of, but I might be wrong. I might be one of the people that just don't know about them. So if you do know the origins of the name of Akupara, let me know in the comments. But yeah, the second ring, so everything outside of the mountain ring, but inside of like the walls of Asgard, scorched earth, abyssal ocean, frozen waste, and so on and so forth, is included into this definition of Akupara. So it's the same way the first ring was called also Atlas. Yeah, I don't really know if I mentioned this once again, but like the first like existence is of course called Earth, but then outside of the ice walls it's called Atlas, and then outside of the mountain ring it's called Akupara. So I think with this we made a kind of a big and heavily descriptive introduction to the new continents of the world outside of the ice walls, and I really want to delve into them like with the most information I can get, so that I also wait before we keep going, I just noticed that there is a new turret here. That's amazing. That's just amazing. Also Atlantis. There's so much stuff to talk about in great detail, and I wish to have all the right information so that I can expose it to you as it is in this map. Once again, thanks to the creators. I think I will stop with this video now, and let's see if it gets a good reception so I can keep going with these videos and make as many as I can without them getting shut down or something, because sometimes that just happens when you put these things out there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you liked the contents that I brought, and I hope you're excited to just learn about all these landmasses like we learned about Asgard and the Garden of Eden, but I'm sure you already know about them. So yeah, there's so much more to learn. Put a like under the video if you liked it, and then, you know, just put a comment because it helps with the algorithm and lets it spread so that more people can know about these informations. So yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, let's see each other in the next episode.